Businessman fakes blindness to test his wife, but what happens leaves him speechless. Harrison Reed's hands trembled as he adjusted his dark glasses for the 5th time that morning. At 42, the successful businessman from New York never imagined he would go so far as to fake a disability to discover the truth about his own wife. It was when he heard the sound of keys at the front door that his heart raced. Catherine was arriving from the hospital where he had supposedly spent the night after the accident at the construction site of his new development. She didn't know he had arranged everything with the doctor, an old family friend, to create the perfect ruse. The last few months of marriage had been a silent nightmare of distrust and strange movements in the bank accounts that only he could see. "Harrison?" Catherine's voice echoed through the entry hall of the mansion in the Upper East Side. "Honey, I'm here." The sound of high heels approached across the marble floor. Harrison gripped the white cane he had discreetly purchased the previous week, studying every movement a visually impaired person would make. He had practiced for days at the office, memorizing every corner of the house, every piece of furniture, every step. "Kate?" he called, making his voice tremble slightly. "Kate, where are you? I can't see anything. Nothing at all." Catherine entered the living room where he was waiting. Harrison could smell her expensive perfume, the same one she had worn for 5 years of marriage. But now it seemed different, laden with something he couldn't quite identify. "Oh my God, Harrison," she murmured, and he heard the sound of her dropping her purse on the sofa. "The doctor called me. He said it might be permanent." "Permanent?" Harrison repeated the word as if it were a sentence. "I'm never going to see again." There was a silence that lasted too long. Harrison expected tears, despair, maybe even a comforting hug, but what came was something very different. We'll figure it out, honey," Catherine said, but her voice sounded strangely controlled. "I'll take care of you, of everything." In the days that followed, Harrison began to notice behaviors that made him increasingly uneasy. Catherine constantly moved furniture around the house. On the first morning, he tripped over the plant pot she had moved from the hallway to right in the middle of the walkway. "Sorry, honey," she said, rushing to help him. "I forgot to tell you I moved it." But Harrison knew that wasn't forgetfulness. It was a test. She was checking whether he really couldn't see. During breakfast, Martha, the maid who had worked with them for over 10 years, approached him with special care. "Mr. Harrison, I left the sugar right here on your right side," she whispered gently. "And the coffee is nice and warm, just the way you like it." "Thank you, Martha," Harrison replied, lightly touching the cup. "You've always been an angel to us." "Mrs. Catherine," Martha called, "will he need help getting dressed? I can organize his clothes in an easier way." "That won't be necessary," Catherine cut in sharply. "I'll handle it. Besides, Martha, you can leave early today. I have some things to take care of." Harrison noticed the different tone in his wife's voice. Catherine had never treated Martha that way. The maid, visibly hurt, murmured a "Yes, ma'am," and left. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, go ahead and hit like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out. Now, continuing. That night, Harrison pretended to fall asleep early. Catherine stayed in the living room and he was able to hear when she made the first mysterious phone call. "Hello?" She spoke quietly, but not quietly enough. "Yes, it happened. He can't see anymore." I know it seems too quick. But the doctor confirmed, no, he doesn't suspect anything." Harrison's heart was pounding so hard, he feared she might hear it from downstairs. Who was the person on the other end of the line? And why was Catherine talking about him not suspecting anything? "Now we can speed up the plans," she continued. "He's going to need me for everything. He won't question the decisions I make. Yes, especially about the money." Harrison had to restrain himself from running downstairs and confronting her right then. But he knew he needed more information. He needed to understand the full scope of the betrayal he was facing. The next day, Catherine left early, saying she was going to the market, but only came back 3 hours later. When Harrison asked about the delay, She replied that she'd taken the opportunity to take care of some things at the bank. What kind of things? He asked, trying to sound casual. Oh, basic stuff. I want to organize our financial situation now that you're going to need more care. Harrison felt a knot in his stomach. He'd known Catherine for 7 years, been married to her for 5, and he'd never seen her show any interest in finances. She always said those things were too complicated for her. That afternoon, while Catherine was on the phone in the kitchen, Harrison decided to take a risk. Pretending to be confused about the location of the bathroom, he walked slowly through the hallways, tapping his cane and calling out for Catherine to keep up the ruse. That's when he got close to the office and heard her voice more clearly. "Attorney Sterling, I need to schedule an urgent appointment. No, it's not for my husband, it's for me. Legal questions about incapacity. Yes, when someone becomes incapacitated, how does the transfer of assets work?" Harrison stopped breathing. Incapacity. Transfer of assets. The words echoed in his mind like a warning siren. "I see," Catherine continued. "And what if it's a permanent incapacity? Can the wife take over management of everything? Perfect. Can it be tomorrow at 2 in the afternoon? When Catherine hung up, Harrison quickly made his way back to the living room, pretending to be lost. "Kate," he called out, "I can't find the bathroom." "I'm right here, honey." She appeared quickly, but Harrison could swear there was a new coldness in her voice. "You're far away. Come, let me help you." As she guided him, Harrison tried to process everything he'd heard. His wife was consulting attorneys about her legal rights in case he became permanently incapacitated. That wasn't the behavior of a concerned wife. It was the behavior of someone planning something. That night during dinner, Harrison decided to run a test. "Kate, I'm worried about the company," he said. "Maybe I should call Julian to help me with the important decisions." Julian was his younger brother and minority partner in the company. Harrison watched Catherine's reaction closely, even while pretending not to see her. "Oh, honey," she said, and he could hear the tension in her voice. "I don't think you should worry about that right now. You need to focus on your recovery. I can handle those things for the time being." "You?" Harrison feigned surprise. "But Kate, you always said business confused you." "Well, things change, don't they?" she replied quickly, "and I learn fast when I need to." After dinner, Harrison went upstairs to the bedroom and lay there in the dark, thinking about everything he'd discovered. The woman he'd married, the woman he'd fallen desperately in love with, was clearly planning to take advantage of his supposed blindness to seize control of his assets. But why? They had a comfortable marriage, more than enough money to live well for several lifetimes. Why would she do this? The answer came the next morning, when he heard Catherine on the phone again. "I know it sounds cruel," she whispered. "But you don't understand how hard these last few years have been. No, he's not a bad man, it's just that I haven't loved him for a long time. Yes, I know about the prenuptial agreement. That's why I need to do this in a way that he won't notice." The prenuptial agreement. Harrison had insisted on it when they got married, not out of distrust, but because his lawyer had recommended it. Under the agreement, in the event of a divorce, Catherine would only receive a relatively small amount, enough for a comfortable life, but nothing compared to Harrison's total assets. Now everything made sense. She wanted the money, but she couldn't simply ask for a divorce without losing almost everything. His blindness created a perfect opportunity. She could legally take control of everything, as a wife caring for an incapacitated husband. "Sweetheart," Catherine's voice interrupted his thoughts. "I'm heading out to some appointments. Martha will stay with you." "What kind of appointments?" he asked. "Medical things," she replied vaguely, "to better understand how to help you." After Catherine left, Martha approached Harrison in the living room. "Mr. Harrison," she said quietly. "May I say something?" "Of course, Martha. What is it?" "It's just that, well, Mrs. Catherine has been acting very strange since your accident. Yesterday she asked me where the important documents of the house are kept, and she also wanted to know if I had keys to all the rooms." Harrison felt his blood run cold. "Did you say anything?" "I said the documents are in the office safe, but that only you know the code." She got quite upset about that. "Martha," Harrison said carefully, You've worked here for a long time. You know me well. Do you trust me? Of course, Mr. Harrison. You've always been good to me and my family. Then I need to ask you something very important. Don't tell Catherine where things are. If she asks about documents, passwords, keys, anything like that, you tell her you don't know anything. Martha was silent for a moment. Mr. Harrison, is something going on that I should know about? Harrison sighed deeply. Martha was a trustworthy woman. She had taken care of his home as if it were her own family. She deserved to know the truth, or at least part of it. Martha, I need you to trust me now more than ever. I can't explain everything, but things aren't what they seem. Are you talking about your eyesight? Harrison hesitated. Martha was too smart to be easily fooled. Let's just say, there are things I can still see better than I let on. Martha stayed quiet for a long time. Then she moved closer and whispered, Mr. Harrison, since the accident, Mrs. Catherine has been going through places in the house where she never went before. Yesterday, I saw her trying to open the locked drawer in your office. Did she get it open? No, but she got very nervous when she saw me watching. Harrison knew which drawer Martha was talking about. It was where he kept important documents and also an amount of cash for emergencies. If Catherine was trying to access that drawer, her plans were more serious than he had imagined. Martha, I need to ask you one more thing. Can you watch what Catherine does when I'm not around? But discreetly, without her noticing. Yes, I can, Mr. Harrison. And may I say something? In these 10 years I've worked here, I've never seen Mrs. Catherine treat you with as much affection as she's showing now, but I've also never seen her so calculating. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, take a moment to leave a like and, most importantly, subscribe to the channel. It really helps us out as we're just getting started. Now continuing. Martha's words confirmed Harrison's suspicions. Catherine was being overly affectionate, but in a way that seemed forced, theatrical. When Catherine returned home in the late afternoon, she was accompanied by a man whose voice Harrison didn't recognize. Harrison, I'd like you to meet Dr. Vance, she said. He's a specialist in cases like yours. Hello, Mr. Reed, the man said, extending his hand, which Harrison shook. Your wife told me about the accident. I came here to assess your special needs. What kind of needs? Harrison asked. Well, home modifications, special equipment, and also legal matters. Your wife mentioned that you two might need help managing your business now. Harrison felt anger rising inside him, but he kept his voice calm. Business? Doctor, with all due respect, my mind is perfectly clear. I lost my sight, not my ability to reason. Of course, the man responded quickly, but your wife is concerned about the complexity of running a company without being able to see documents, attend in-person meetings, those kinds of things. I understand, Harrison said. And do you have experience with this type of transition? Yes, I've helped several families in similar situations. It's more common than you'd think. After the man left, Harrison confronted Catherine. Kate, why didn't you tell me about this consultation beforehand? Oh, sweetheart, she said, and he could hear the nervousness in her voice. I didn't want to worry you. I'm just trying to get us ready for the challenges ahead. What kind of challenges? Well, Harrison, be realistic. You won't be able to run the company the same way. You won't be able to read contracts, review documents, attend important meetings. There's technology for that, Kate. Computer programs that read text aloud, assistants, all kinds of solutions. But that's going to be so complicated, she insisted. Wouldn't it be easier if I took on those responsibilities for a while? Harrison pretended to consider the idea. How would you take them on? Well, I could have power of attorney to make the necessary decisions, of course always consulting you on everything. There it was, the power of attorney. That's what she'd wanted all along. Let me think about it, Harrison said. That night he overheard Catherine making another call. He's considering the power of attorney, she whispered. I think we can get this resolved by next week. No, he doesn't suspect a thing. He's completely dependent on me now. Dependent. The word hit Harrison like a slap in the face. He had never been dependent on anyone in his life. He had built his real estate empire from scratch, starting as a simple broker and becoming one of the most respected businessmen in New York. And now his own wife saw him as someone weak and dependent. The next day, Julian came by to visit him. Harrison was genuinely happy to see his brother. "Harrison, man, I'm really worried about you," Julian said, hugging him. "How are you feeling?" "Physically fine," Harrison replied. "Mentally, it's complicated." "I can imagine," Julian sighed. "Look, I came by because I wanted to talk to you about the company. You don't need to worry about anything right now. I can handle the day-to-day operations while you recover." "Thanks, bro, but Catherine was suggesting she could help me with that." Julian was silent for a moment. "Catherine?" he said, surprised. "Man, no disrespect to your wife, but does she know anything about construction? Real estate contracts, negotiating with suppliers?" "That's what I was thinking too," Harrison admitted. "Look," Julian lowered his voice, "I don't want to cause problems between you two, but yesterday a guy showed up at the office claiming to be Catherine's lawyer. He wanted information about the company's corporate structure." Harrison's heart nearly stopped. "What kind of information?" "Ownership percentages, how decisions are made, that kind of thing." "I told him he'd have to talk to you directly, but it was strange." "Strange how?" He seemed to already know a lot of stuff. "She specifically asked about what happens to company decisions if the majority partner became incapacitated." Harrison felt nauseous. Catherine had been investigating his company with lawyers, probably looking for legal loopholes to take control. "Julian," Harrison said carefully, "can I ask you something? Don't pass any information about the company to anyone without talking to me first. Not to lawyers, not to Catherine, anyone." "Of course, man. But is everything okay? You seem worried." "I just need to organize my thoughts about how I'm going to run the company going forward." After Julian left, Catherine arrived upset. "What was your brother doing here?" she asked, without even greeting him. "He came to visit me," Harrison replied, "and to talk about the company." "And what did you two decide?" "We haven't decided anything definitive yet." "Harrison," Catherine's voice grew more serious, "we need to be practical. Your brother has his own life, his own projects. He can't keep taking care of your business indefinitely." "And you can." "I'm your wife," she said, as if that were explanation enough. "It's my responsibility to take care of you." That week, Catherine's behavior became even more suspicious. Harrison noticed she left the house every day, always with different excuses: doctor, grocery store, bank, pharmacy. But Martha told him the outings lasted much longer than would be necessary for those activities. "Mr. Harrison," Martha whispered one morning. "Yesterday, when Mrs. Catherine left, she took a folder with papers. I saw her putting it in the car." "What kind of papers?" "They looked like important documents. There was a blue paper that reminded me of those notary's office documents." Harrison knew exactly which document Martha was describing. It was a copy of the house deed. Why would Catherine take that wherever she was going? That evening, while they were having dinner, Harrison decided to run another test. "Kate, I've been thinking about our financial situation," he said casually. "Maybe it's time to make some safer investments." "What kind of investments?" she asked, too interested. "I don't know, maybe putting money in both our names, making access easier in case of an emergency." "Oh yes," she said quickly. "That makes a lot of sense." "Actually, I've been thinking the same thing." Of course she had, Harrison thought. "Actually," she continued, "I already talked to the bank manager about it. He said it would be very easy to add me as an account holder on the main accounts." "You already talked to him? When?" "This week. I didn't want to worry you with all that paperwork." Harrison pretended to consider the idea. "And what else did he say?" "That with a simple power of attorney I could take care of everything, including larger transfers if necessary." Larger transfers. The words echoed in Harrison's mind. Catherine was planning not only to take control, but also to transfer money. Where? To whom? "Transfers for what?" he asked. "Oh, you know," she replied vaguely. "Investments, medical treatments, things like that, medical treatments." Harrison had never thought of that, but now that his blindness was supposedly permanent, there would indeed be costs for treatments, special equipment, adaptations. It would be the perfect excuse to move large amounts of money. After dinner, Harrison went upstairs to the bedroom, but stayed at the top of the stairs listening. As he expected, Catherine made another call. "Hello," she whispered. "It's me." "Yes." He's considering the power of attorney. I know we need to speed things up." "No, we can't wait much longer." He's starting to ask questions about the outings. Harrison came down a few steps, risking being discovered to hear better. "Are you sure this is going to work?" Catherine continued. "What if he finds out something? What do you mean he won't find out? He may be blind, but he's not stupid. I know you have experience with this, but—" Experience with this? Harrison felt a chill run down his spine. What kind of person was Catherine talking to? Someone who had experience deceiving people with disabilities. "Okay," Catherine said. "Tomorrow I'll bring the documents you asked for. Yes, I got the floor plan of the house and also the information about the companies." "No, he doesn't suspect anything about you." "About you?" There was someone specific involved in this. Someone Catherine couldn't mention to Harrison. Someone who knew the details of how to deceive blind people. Harrison went upstairs to the bedroom with his heart racing. His wife wasn't just planning to steal his money. She was doing it with someone's help, someone experienced in this kind of scam. The next morning, he made a decision that could be risky, but it was necessary. When Catherine left, he called Julian. "Man, I need you to come over here urgently," he said on the phone, "and bring Connor with you." Connor was a longtime friend of both brothers, and also a private detective. If Harrison needed to find out the truth about Catherine, he'd need professional help. When the two arrived, Harrison led them to the office and closed the door. "Guys," he said, "I need to tell you something, but you have to promise you won't freak out." "Of course, man," Julian replied. "What is it?" Harrison took a deep breath and took off his dark glasses. "I'm not blind." The silence that followed was deafening. "What do you mean you're not blind?" Julian finally asked. "The doctor said—" "The doctor is a friend of mine from college. He helped me pull off this charade." "But why?" Connor asked. Harrison told them everything he had discovered over the past few days. The phone calls, the lawyers, Catherine's plans to take control of his assets. "Man," Julian said, shaken. "This is really serious, are you sure?" "Absolutely," Harrison replied. "Connor, I need your help to find out who she's working with, and also to get proof of what she's planning." "I can install recording devices in the house," Connor said, "and I can also investigate her contacts." "Do you have any idea who this mysterious person might be?" "No idea. But from what I heard, it's someone with experience in this kind of situation." "Experience in deceiving the visually impaired?" Julian asked, outraged. "What kind of person does that?" "The kind my wife decided to partner with," Harrison replied bitterly. Connor installed small recording devices in strategic points around the house. They were so tiny that it would be impossible for Catherine to notice, especially since she believed Harrison couldn't see. "Done," Connor said. "Now we just wait. I'll monitor everything remotely and pass along the important information." When Catherine came home that afternoon, Harrison was already back in his dark glasses, pretending to be resting in the living room. "Hi, honey," she said, but her voice sounded tense. "How was your day?" "Quiet," he replied. "Martha made that soup I like." "That's nice," she said distractedly. "Harrison, I've been thinking, I think we should speed things up with the power of attorney." "Why the rush?" "It's just that, well, the longer we wait, the more complicated it gets for you to adapt to the changes. It's better to get it done quickly so you can focus on your recovery." "That makes sense," Harrison said. "What kind of power of attorney were you thinking of?" "A broad power of attorney," she answered quickly, "so I can take care of everything that needs to be done without having to bother you all the time." Broad power of attorney. That would give Catherine the power to do practically anything in his name. "All right," Harrison said. "We can take care of that next week." "Actually," Catherine said, "how about tomorrow? I already talked to a notary's office, and they can come here to the house to take care of everything. Tomorrow." Catherine's urgency confirmed that her plan had a deadline. Something was happening that demanded speed. That night, Harrison pretended to go to sleep early again, but he was alert to every sound. As expected, Catherine made another phone call. "Hello, it's tomorrow." "Yes, tomorrow he signs the power of attorney. I know it's risky, but we can't wait any longer. He's starting to suspect something." She was right about that, Harrison thought. "What do you mean he's not acting like the others?" Catherine continued. "What others?" "Ah, I see. No, he can't be faking it. I tested him several times, moving furniture, making noises. He tripped over everything." Harrison broke into a cold sweat. The others. How many people had this pair already deceived this way? "All right," Catherine said. "Tomorrow after the power of attorney, you can come here and meet him in person. Yes, then we can finalize everything. And what about the offshore money? Is everything all set?" Offshore money? Harrison almost got out of bed. Catherine wasn't just planning to rob him. She was planning to hide the money in overseas accounts. "Perfect," she continued. "In a week I'll be out of the country. No, he'll never be able to find me. Even if he regains his sight later, it'll be too late. Out of the country. In a week." Harrison realized that Catherine's plan was far more elaborate than he had imagined. She didn't just want to rob him, she wanted to disappear completely. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, go ahead and leave a like, and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot since we're just starting out. Now continuing. The next morning, Harrison urgently called Connor. "Connor, it's today," he whispered on the phone. "She wants me to sign a power of attorney today, and then she's going to bring her partner here to the house." "I understand," Connor replied. "You have two options. Either you confront her now or you let the plan continue so we can gather more evidence. What do you think? If you sign the power of attorney, even while pretending, it could be complicated to cancel it legally later. But if you don't sign, she might get suspicious and speed up her escape plans." Harrison thought quickly. "I'll sign," he decided. "But you need to make sure you recorded everything. And I want to know who this partner of hers is." "I already have preliminary information," Connor said. "The number she calls most often is registered under the name of one Bradley Scott Vance. He's been arrested twice for fraud, always involving elderly or disabled people." Harrison felt nauseous. His wife had teamed up with a criminal who specialized in deceiving vulnerable people. "There's more," Connor continued. "This Bradley Scott has an account in Bermuda. It seems he helps his victims invest money overseas." "Which he actually steals," Harrison finished. "Exactly. Harrison, this guy is dangerous. Not in a physical sense, but he's ruined several families. And the worst part, some of the victims never found out they were robbed. They believed to the very end that they were making legitimate investments. At 2 in the afternoon, a man from the notary's office arrived at Harrison's house. Catherine was visibly nervous but trying to act normally. "Mr. Reed," the man said, "your wife explained the situation to me. I'll read the power of attorney to you before you sign." Harrison listened to every word of the document. It was exactly what Connor had warned about. A broad power of attorney that would give Catherine total control over all of his assets. "I understand," Harrison said when the man finished. "Where do I need to sign?" "Here, sir." The man guided his hand to the paper. Harrison signed, but he purposely wrote his name slightly differently from his usual signature. If he needed to contest the document later, he'd have legal grounds. After the man from the notary's office left, Catherine was clearly relieved. "Done, love," she said. "Now you don't have to worry about anything. I'll take care of everything for you." "Thank you, Mari," Harrison replied. "You're an incredible wife." If only she knew that every word was being recorded. At 5 in the afternoon, the doorbell rang. Harrison heard Catherine open the door and greet someone cheerfully. "Bradley," she said. Come in, come in. Harrison, I want you to meet a friend of mine." The man who walked into the room had a confident voice, the kind of person used to convincing others. "Mr. Reed," he said, extending his hand, "it's a pleasure to finally meet you. Catherine has told me so much about you." "Likewise," Harrison replied, shaking the hand of the man who was planning to rob him. "Catherine mentioned you have an interest in some special investments," Bradley continued. "Opportunities that aren't available to the general public." "What kind of opportunities?" Harrison asked. "Well, given your current situation, I thought it might be wise to diversify your investments geographically. I have contacts at international financial institutions that offer returns far superior to what you'd get from domestic banks. There it was, the bait. "Is that legal?" Harrison asked, feigning naivete. "Completely legal," Bradley answered promptly. "In fact, it's very common among businessmen at your level. The difference is that my contacts can facilitate the process, especially for people who have difficulties traveling or handling things in person." Difficulties traveling. A not-so-subtle reference to his supposed blindness. "And how would it work?" Harrison asked. "It's very simple," Bradley explained. "You make an initial transfer to an intermediary account that I manage. That account makes the international investment on your behalf. Within 6 months, you're guaranteed a return of at least 40%. 40% in 6 months. Anyone with financial knowledge would know that was impossible legally." "Sounds too good to be true," Harrison commented. "I understand your caution," Bradley said. "It's precisely because it sounds too good that these opportunities aren't widely advertised. The institutions prefer to work with a limited number of select clients." "And what initial amount would you recommend?" Harrison asked. Bradley and Catherine exchanged a look that Harrison pretended not to notice. "For a first investment," Bradley said, "I'd recommend somewhere around 5 million. It's an amount that shows you're serious but doesn't tie up too much of your overall portfolio. 5 million. Harrison almost laughed at the audacity. "That's a lot of money," he said. "Love," Catherine interjected. "You've always said that to make money, you have to risk money. And 5 million isn't much for us." "For us?" As if she'd contributed a single penny to building that fortune. "Let me think about it," Harrison said. "It's an important decision." "Of course," Bradley agreed. "But I should warn you that this particular opportunity has a limited window. I need an answer by Friday." Friday. It was Thursday. They wanted an answer within 24 hours. "Why the rush?" Harrison asked. "The enrollment period for new investors closes at the end of this week," Bradley explained. "After that, it won't open again until next semester." After Bradley left, Catherine was clearly anxious. "So, what did you think?" she asked. "Interesting," Harrison replied. "But do you trust this guy?" "Completely," she said too quickly. "He was recommended to me by very reliable people." "What people?" You don't know them. They're some friends of mine who invested with him and it worked out great. Friends Harrison had never met or heard mentioned in 5 years of marriage." That night, Harrison called Connor to tell him about Bradley's visit. "Did you manage to record everything?" he asked. "Every word," Connor confirmed. "And I have news about this Bradley Scott. He made exactly the same proposal to at least 5 other people over the past 2 years, all of them visually impaired or with other limitations. And did it work? In 3 cases, yes. The victims transferred the money and never saw it again. In the other 2, family members intervened before the transfer. And Catherine, did she know about all of this?" "From what I could find out, she met Bradley about 3 months ago. Apparently it was at a clinic where she said she was receiving treatment for anxiety." Treatment for anxiety. Harrison remembered the many times Catherine had left the house saying she was going to the doctor. At least that part was true. "But here's the interesting part," Connor continued. "I spoke with the clinic's receptionist. Catherine did attend therapy there, but she always asked a lot of questions about other patients, especially those who had spouses with disabilities." A chill ran down Harrison's spine. Catherine had literally hunted Bradley down at a clinic, knowing he would be useful for her plans. "There's more," Connor said. "I managed to access her phone records. The first calls between them were in March. What's interesting is that it was right after you mentioned you were going to have your eyes examined because of some headaches you'd been having." March. Harrison remembered perfectly. He had seen an ophthalmologist for frequent headaches, but the tests showed nothing serious. It had just been work stress. But Catherine had been very interested in the subject at the time, asking several questions about what would happen if the tests detected a serious problem. Now he understood. Her plan had started long before the supposed accident. She had prepared herself for any opportunity related to his vision. On Friday morning, Bradley called early. "Mr. Reed," he said, "I'm calling to see if you've reached a decision about the investment." "Yes," Harrison replied. "I'm interested." "Excellent." Bradley couldn't hide the excitement in his voice. "When can we make the transfer?" "Today, if possible." "Perfect. I'll come by with the final documents for you to sign." After hanging up, Harrison called Connor. "It's today," he said. "I need you to be ready with everything." "I already am," Connor replied. "The relevant authorities have been notified. As soon as they try to access the account, we'll catch them." Harrison had set up a special bank account with $5 million, but with safeguards that would prevent any actual transfer. Bradley and Catherine could see the money in the account, but they wouldn't be able to move it. At 2 in the afternoon, Bradley arrived with a briefcase full of documents. "Mr. Reed," he said solemnly, "these are the final papers for the investment. I'll read each one to you." The documents were impressively elaborate, with bank logos that looked real and convincing technical language. If Harrison were truly blind and inexperienced, he would certainly have been deceived. "I understood everything," Harrison said after Bradley finished reading. "Where do I sign?" "Here, here, and here." Bradley guided his hand through the documents. Harrison signed everything, knowing that none of the documents had any real legal value. "Now we just need the account details for the transfer," Bradley said. Harrison gave him the information for the special account he had set up. "Perfect," Bradley said. "I'll initiate the transfer right away. In 48 hours, the money will be safe in the international account." Over the next 2 hours, Harrison listened to Bradley and Catherine whispering in the office, probably trying to access the account online. "That's strange," he heard Bradley murmur. "There's some kind of temporary block on the account." "What kind of block?" Catherine asked, clearly nervous. "It must be a security protocol for large transfers," Bradley replied. "I'll call my contact at the bank." Harrison knew Bradley wouldn't be able to resolve the problem because the problem was that he was trying to steal money from a monitored account. After half an hour of trying, Bradley approached Harrison. "Mr. Reed," he said, trying to keep his voice calm, "we're having a small technical difficulty. The bank is asking for your personal confirmation to release the transfer." "What kind of confirmation?" "You need to call them and confirm that you authorize the transaction." "I can call right now," Harrison said. "Actually," Bradley hesitated, "it would be better if you went to the bank in person. Transfers of this amount require physical presence." Physical presence? Bradley was getting desperate. "All right," Harrison said. "Catherine can take me there." "No," Bradley said too quickly. "I mean, it would be better if you went with someone neutral. I can accompany you." "Why not Catherine?" "It's just, well, since she has power of attorney over your accounts, the bank might see a conflict of interest." Harrison pretended to be confused. "Conflict of interest?" "Technical matters," Bradley said vaguely. "Better not to complicate things." At that moment, Harrison heard cars pulling up in front of the house. Connor had done his part. "Mr. Reed?" an authoritative voice called from the front door. "Representatives of the Financial Authority, we need to speak with you." The silence that followed was absolute. Harrison could feel Bradley and Catherine's panic. What do they want?" Catherine stammered. "I don't know," Harrison said, slowly removing his sunglasses. "Why don't we ask them?" Bradley was the first to realize that Harrison could see. You're not blind," he muttered. "Very observant," Harrison replied, looking directly into the man's eyes for the first time. Catherine was pale as a ghost. "Harrison, I can explain." "Can you?" he asked. "Can you explain how you spent 3 months planning to rob me? How you got involved with a criminal? How you were going to flee the country with my money?" "How do you know all this?" she whispered. "Because, unlike you, I still have loyal friends," Harrison replied. The representatives of the authority entered the house at that moment, accompanied by Connor. "Mr. Reed," one of them said, "we received your report about attempted fraud. Are these the suspects?" "They are," Harrison confirmed. "Harrison, please," Catherine began to cry. "I can explain everything." "Can you?" he asked. "Then explain. Explain why you would do this to me. Explain why you would destroy 5 years of marriage. Explain why you got involved with a criminal. I didn't want... It wasn't supposed to be like this." Bradley tried to leave discreetly but was stopped. "Mr. Vance," one of the agents said, You're under arrest for attempted fraud. Wait a minute, Bradley protested. I haven't done anything illegal. Mr. Reed signed all the documents voluntarily. Fake documents, Connor intervened. For an investment that doesn't exist, with companies that don't exist, aimed at stealing money from a person you believed to be disabled. While Bradley was being taken away, Harrison was left alone with Catherine in the living room. "Why, Kate?" he asked, sitting heavily on the couch. "Why would you do this?" Catherine cried for a few minutes before she could speak. "I don't love you anymore, Harrison," she said finally. "I haven't for a long time." The words hit like a punch to the gut, but strangely, Harrison felt a kind of relief. Finally, the truth. "Since when?" he asked. Maybe since always," she whispered. "I married you because you were stable, successful, but I never felt what I should have felt." "Then why didn't you ask for a divorce?" "The prenuptial agreement," she admitted. "I would have gotten almost nothing, and I got used to this life, the money, the house, the trips. So you decided to rob me." "It wasn't robbery," she protested weakly. It was finding a way to have what I deserved." "What you deserved?" Harrison repeated, incredulous. "Kate, you deserved exactly what was in the agreement you signed voluntarily." "Easy for you to say," she countered. "You had everything before you met me. I gave up my career, my dreams, to be your wife." "What career?" Harrison asked. "You were working as a receptionist when we met, and I never asked you to stop. You wanted to stop because you said you wanted to take care of the house." "I was young," she cried. "I didn't know what I was choosing." "You were 26 years old, Kate. You weren't a child." Martha appeared at the living room door, clearly upset by the whole situation. "Mr. Harrison," she said hesitantly, "can I do something?" "Can you make coffee, Martha?" he asked. "It's going to be a long night." When Martha left, Harrison looked at Catherine again. "Is there anything else I should know?" he asked. Catherine hesitated for a long time. "There is," she finally admitted, "but you're going to get even angrier." "Hardly," Harrison replied dryly. I'm sick, Harrison." "Sick how?" "I have a degenerative disease," she whispered. "I found out 6 months ago." Harrison felt as if the world had stopped. "What kind of disease?" "A neurological condition," she cried. "The doctors say I'll need intensive care in a few years. Maybe even—" She couldn't finish the sentence. "Why didn't you tell me?" Harrison asked, completely shaken. "Because I didn't want to be a burden to you," she sobbed. "I didn't want you to stay with me out of pity." "A burden," Harrison repeated. "Kate, we're married, in sickness and in health, remember?" "But you don't really love me," she said. "You never did. You love the idea of me, the perfect wife, the perfect homemaker. You don't love who I really am." Harrison stayed silent because there was a painful truth in those words. "And who are you really?" he asked. "Someone who's afraid," she whispered. "Who's always been afraid. Afraid of not being enough, afraid of being abandoned, afraid of dying alone." "Then why didn't you talk to me? Why did you create this whole charade?" "Because I wanted to make sure you would stay with me for the right reasons," she explained. "Not out of duty or pity." "And how was stealing my money going to give you that certainty?" "It wasn't," she admitted. "It was a stupid plan. I was so scared, and I met Bradley in a support group. He convinced me it would be easy, that no one would get hurt." "No one would get hurt?" Harrison asked, incredulous. "Kate, you were going to ruin my life." "I was going to leave enough money for you to live well," she protested. "I wasn't going to take everything." "What generosity," Harrison said sarcastically. "I know it was wrong," she cried. "I know it was terrible. But I was desperate, Harrison. Afraid of the disease, afraid of the future, afraid of you leaving me." "Leave you?" Harrison repeated. "In 5 years of marriage, have I ever left you?" "Not physically," she said, "but emotionally. You were never really present." Harrison knew she was right. He had dedicated himself so much to work, to business, to success, that he had neglected the relationship. "That doesn't justify what you did," he said. "I know," she agreed. "Nothing justifies it." They stayed silent for a while, the weight of betrayal and revelations hanging between them. "What do you want now, Kate?" Harrison asked finally. "I want to get treatment," she said. "I want to try to be a better person in the years I have left." "And us?" "There's no more us," she whispered. "How could there be after what I did?" Harrison sighed deeply. She was right. Trust had been destroyed in a way that might be impossible to repair. "Are you going to sue Bradley?" she asked. "Yes," Harrison replied. "He did this to other people. He needs to be punished." "And me?" Harrison thought about the question for a long time. "You're going to leave the house," he said finally. "I'll honor the prenuptial agreement, and I'll pay for your medical treatment." "Why?" she asked, surprised. "Because despite everything, we were married for 5 years," he replied. "And because you're sick. I won't let you die without treatment, even after what you did." Catherine cried harder. "I don't deserve your kindness." "Probably not," Harrison agreed. "But I deserve peace of mind, and I wouldn't have peace knowing I abandoned you when you need help the most." "Thank you," she whispered. "But one thing, Kate," Harrison said, his voice growing more serious. "If you try to deceive me again in any way, I'll withdraw all support and you'll have to fend for yourself." "I understand," she agreed. In the days that followed, Catherine packed her bags and moved to a smaller apartment that Harrison had bought for her. Medical treatment was arranged at one of the best private clinics in New York. Bradley was sued and convicted of fraud. During the trial, it was revealed that he had stolen more than $20 million from several victims over 5 years. Harrison went back to his work routine, but something had changed in him. The experience had made him reflect on his priorities and relationships. Julian took on a bigger role in the company, allowing Harrison to have more time for his personal life. He started therapy to better understand his own relationship patterns. Martha continued working at the house, but now there was greater closeness between them. She had shown a loyalty that Harrison would never forget. "Mr. Harrison," she said one morning, serving coffee, "can I say something?" "Of course, Martha." "You did the right thing with Mrs. Catherine." "Did I?" "Yes, you did," she confirmed. "Even after all the harm she did, you didn't abandon her in her illness. That shows the kind of person you are." "Sometimes I wonder if I was too nice," Harrison admitted. "There's no such thing as being too nice when it comes to doing what's right," Martha replied. "So you can sleep peacefully knowing you did your part." 6 months later, Harrison received an unexpected phone call from Catherine. "Harrison!" Her voice sounded weak. "Can I talk to you?" "Of course," he replied. "How are you?" "Better," she said. "The treatment is working. The doctors say the disease is progressing more slowly than they expected." "That's great, Kate." "Harrison, I'm calling to apologize," she said. "Truly, not to try to get back together or get something from you, just to apologize." "Thank you," he replied. "That means a lot to me. I started therapy too," she continued, "to understand why I did that, why I was capable of doing that to you." "And what did you discover?" "That I was always afraid of not being truly loved," she explained. "So I created situations to confirm my fears. If you left me, I could say I knew it was going to happen. That's a very destructive way of dealing with insecurities." "It is," she agreed. "But I'm learning better ways." "I'm glad to hear that." "Harrison?" she called before hanging up. "Yes? Thank you for not abandoning me, and I'm sorry for doubting your character." After he hung up, Harrison kept thinking about the conversation. Was there forgiveness? Maybe. Forgetting? Never. But there was a kind of closure he didn't know he needed. 2 years later, Harrison married again. This time to a woman he met through friends, someone who had her own career and financial independence. Someone who loved him for who he was, not for what he could provide. Catherine sent a congratulations card for the wedding. A simple note: "I wish you both all the happiness in the world. Thank you for teaching me that true love includes forgiveness. Kate. Harrison kept the card, not because he still loved Catherine, but because it represented an important lesson. Sometimes, the greatest betrayals revealed truths about ourselves that we needed to learn. The company continued to thrive under the new shared management between Harrison and Julian. Martha practically became part of the family, and Harrison never took important relationships for granted again. Bradley got 8 years in prison and was forced to repay all his victims. Some families managed to recover their assets, others didn't. The experience taught Harrison that trusting is always a risk, but that the risk is worth it when you choose the right people. And that sometimes the greatest betrayal isn't what others do to us, but what we do to ourselves when we stop paying attention to what truly matters. The end. So, what did you think of this story? Do you think Harrison did the right thing by helping Catherine even after the betrayal? Tell us in the comments which part moved you the most. And don't forget to leave your like and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss other incredible stories like this one.